the measuring cup is $5 to buy it around there. And when they sold it for like $25. And then on the resale market, it sells for hundreds of dollars of people wanting to have it. And I found articles telling grandparents to look cool in front of their grandkids by having the, Supreme Pyrex cup on their counter, and the Birkin bag in the book as well. And similarly with this, it's a very expensive bag. It's very exclusive, and you can't just go into a store and buy it. You have to buy enough other things from Hermes to be nominated, essentially, from a staff member to be eligible to buy this bag that costs thousands of dollars. You don't get to choose your color. You don't get to choose your size, but people love and want this thing. I've been trying to do it right. I've been living a lonely life. I've been sleeping here instead, sleeping in my bed.
One thing no one knows about you.
Oh, some people probably know, but I am working to be able to do my first pull-up. I want to be able to do a pull-up.
Hello, fellows. Welcome to the next episode of Jagged with Just Ravi. Subscribe to my channel for conversations at the edge with thought leaders from the marketing, branding, and the business world. Conversations that ignite new ideas. Ideas with rough and sharp edges. Hello, Melina. Welcome to my show.
Oh, thank you. Delighted to be here.
And we meet again. And every time we meet, there are more books. More babies that have come.
Right. Yeah, there's always something around here, it feels like.
Very lovely. In a tiny, tweetable manner, say something about yourself. What would you say?
I would say that I'm an applied behavioral economist, CEO and founder of the Brainy Business, which helps people to understand the psychology of why customers buy and employees buy in and apply that into their work.
Pricing is not about the price. There are many subconscious pulls, and we say it's rational, but it isn't. It's completely irrational, if you could say that.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's, really going into the space of knowing that, whether or not someone is going to buy is not about the, again, the specific price. And I know you're thinking like, but people tell me all the time it was too expensive or they went with a competitor because they were cheaper. Like if you don't lean into the right psychological principles, all it can come down to is price, and what someone can consciously say as why they decided not to go with you will be because of something that feels logical like that. But there's always something else under the surface that this other opportunity, they were more compelling, they like pulled at a heartstring, they did something that made it feel like, I don't know, something in my gut says that this is the way to go, right? And that, gut in this case is how our subconscious would be processing and what it's kind of leaning into. And so the framework that I use in the book, which doesn't, come up until much later, but it's called It's Not About the Cookie. And in this case, just to imagine, we're walking down the street, we're having a great conversation about, we'll say, golden octopuses, right? And we haven't seen each other in a while and we're chatting. And then all of a sudden, there is this amazing scent that just comes like wafting in toward us. And we're still talking to each other, but we're distracted. It's like sweet and there's a hint of salt and it's chocolate. And we know there are chocolate chip cookies somewhere close by, right? So we're still talking, but like noses are pulling us down the road. And then we get in front of the bakery and we see that there's a line of people out there and we find ourselves in the line and they say, today only, buy 3, get 1 free. And they have samples. Before we know it, we walk out of that store. We're each eating a cookie and we've got a bag in our hands with an undisclosed number in it for later, right? So that is cookie scenario 1. If we rewind and same street, same conversation, same everything, we're talking, and then someone comes up and, shoves a coupon in our faces and says, hey, you know what? Today only, we've got these cookies that we're selling. And if you buy 4, you only have to pay for 3 of them. And, I've got samples. ugh, like that guy, get out of here, guy. Like we were having a conversation. Now we're just talking about bad sales experiences and one upping each other in this experience, right? We get in front of the store and we see the line and we are pitying them for having worse standards than us. And then we finally smell the cookies. And that is that last straw that makes us want to write a review about their bad sales practices and how we would never buy from them. So, what's important to like note and realize a couple things. One, it could have been exactly the same cookies in both scenario. In the first one, we're almost definitely buying. Second one, we're almost definitely not. So, like we say, it's not about the cookie, but it's also not about the price, right? That was never even really a factor. They could have been $3 cookies in the first one, and they could have been 50 cents each in the second one. And it just didn't really matter. We're almost definitely buying in the first, we're almost definitely not in the second scenario. And so, also, all the same things essentially happened, just a little bit kind of the flip of each one, and they happen in a slightly different order. And so, knowing that how you apply those concepts, how you draw people in, like that scent of the cookies coming first, is really important in having your subconscious be like pulling you toward that buying experience. And good news being, it doesn't only work with delicious scents like cookies, right? So we can use this in other areas of work as well.
And I'm reminded about your elephant and the rider example. You remember last time when you
Mm,
said that the
yeah,
subconscious is the elephant, and when the elephant has been aroused by the scent, it's in the driver's seat, and the rider cannot now intervene and say,
yeah.
"Hello, there are cheaper cookies there, or let's have it later," or "Are you really sure?" You're like, "Hey, I want it." The elephant has decided.
Right. Yeah, and that I wish I could claim the ownership and origination of the elephant and the rider. That's from Jonathan Haidt. But in this way, knowing that you can think about your brain like a person that's riding an elephant, we like to think that that conscious rider knows where we're going. We've got a plan. We're going to get there. But like we're saying here, you're at the mercy of that subconscious elephant, and if it gets distracted by delicious cookies. And they're over here, and you're trying to go that way, it can be hard. You can't, push or pull or logic the elephant into doing what you want it to do as that writer. And so, having this awareness when you think about being in a brand with a company, if you're trying to, you know, nudge the direction the elephant is going to go in, if you want to know how that elephant is making its decisions so that you can be enticing and motivating the elephant in the way that you are encouraging its behavior and the interaction you want with your brand. And so having that awareness is really important, and that's really where behavioral economics comes in.
If we bust some myths, so I have some. If you have any other favorite ones, then we can get into that. uh, because in this highly, where even brands are becoming commodities. I mean, uh, considering the e-commerce coming up, and so much choice, like we spoiled for choice. Brands are having a tough time claiming a premium, ensuring that price sensitivity is less. I'm going to talk about a myth, and you bust it, Melina style. Yes.
Yes.
So, lower price boost sales.
Yes, and it can, but it should not be your go-to or to feel like it's the only option for you to like, well, if people aren't buying, we got to reduce our prices. So for one, this actually isn't in the book, but there's in one case where people were trying to sell, I think it was a dress for $34, and there wasn't a lot of traction on it. They raised the price to $39, and it had a 30% increase in sales. And so the implication, of that, like, left digit bias when we round down feeling like ending in a 9, that can be compelling. What's interesting here is it lowered to a price that most people might go down to a 39. Say if it was 50, you feel like you have to discount down to get there. But you don't. I love that example of actually going up. The way that that triggers our brain is very different. But not everyone should be in a rounded down type of pricing strategy or needs to discount their prices. In the book, I talk a lot about the difference between being a quality brand or a value brand, and that's a very important decision to make. And knowing if you are a value based brand, you want to be associated with being a bargain, being a deal, and run a lot of sales. That can be a really great strategy for a lot of people. And having those rounded down pricing, like ending in a nine, is a really great way to go with that, right? But for so many other brands that don't want that, that you are of a higher quality, if you're selling products, maybe they're handmade or you invest a lot in R&D. If you're in a service-based business, you have, different types of certifications, whatever it is, or you just, want to sell luxury products or whatever else, right? You don't want to have those rounded down type of pricing. You would want to be 500 instead of 499. It just feels different to our brains and what it means about quality. And I believe also the example that you're thinking of, and one that I talk about quite a bit in the book, is of the brand Supreme. And what's really fascinating about this brand, for those who aren't familiar, they have their, red logo that just is basically the word Supreme that they and there's more to it than this, but as far as it feels like to many consumers would be like they stamp their logo on something and it is immediately worth more than what the thing was without it, even though the functionality, like nothing else changed other than we just kind of, slap their logo on it. They do limited quantity drops, so they're taking advantage of scarcity. There's a social proof factor of people wanting to be in line and get them. There's a large resale market. But one of the examples I share in the book, in addition to, they put their logo on a brick that sold for, hundreds of dollars, and crowbars and just matchbooks and subway tickets. I mean, crazy things, as well as deals with Louis Vuitton and really cool stuff too. So, but they put their logo on a Pyrex measuring cup. And that on its own, the measuring cup is $5 to buy it around there. And when they sold it for like $25. And then on the resale market, it sells for hundreds of dollars of people wanting to have it. And I found articles telling grandparents to look cool in front of their grandkids by having the, Supreme Pyrex cup on their counter, and to pay it's worth the 100 or 200 or $300 to have this thing on your counter, which is so silly because the red of the Pyrex print is almost exactly the same as Supreme's logo. So it's really hard to even see. And of course, functionality doesn't change. But in that way, they sell out of everything almost immediately. And there's this huge resale value on stuff. And they definitely are not lowering prices, they are increasing them.
Melina, you talk about it's important to know how consumers define value. So, like you just talked about social proof. So they want to belong, they want to feel safe. What everybody else is doing, they want to do that, or they want to look cool. So, status is important. So various or scarcity, where they want to feel exclusive. So how they define value and that psychology is the most important to understand before you decide to increase or decrease the price, or just even define the pricing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest advice I would give for anybody who is trying to decide, what they want to do here when it comes to their pricing, whether you want to increase, you want to decrease, you want to be thoughtful to what you're about, right? What is your company doing and how is it helping people? Like you said, how is that tying in with their motivations as a human, right? And knowing it is always something deeper than what you think it should be that is going to be driving that. So it's something like to know that people so just for social proof is the example in this case, like we said, so we're a herding species, so we look to others like us to help us make a decision and to know what's a good buy, what is a safe bet. We don't want to stand out in the crowd, and it's one thing to say, oh, so we have to, okay, I guess we have to put up some star ratings because that's what you do. like, and that's my social proof, right? Or you put out a review that someone put, or maybe a testimonial or a case study. It's a good strategy, and you want to know why, right? Like, why are you using this, and what's the lever that you're pulling inside of that buyer, and understanding, what's the hurdle you're helping them to overcome. So, like, where are they now? What are they trying to accomplish? And where are you in this journey for them of this bigger picture of what it is that they are trying to do? And so, where you have this in mind, you can then say, like, they want to have some sort of social status, right? They want to be like everybody else that's in there. They want to be part of the herd, or they want to be the leader of the herd. They don't want to be left behind. The exclusivity of being, there's status in that, right? So, if there are only a limited number, I'm one of the few people that got this, and everybody praise me because look how cool I am that I was one of however many that got the thing. I did this extra effort to get it because I'm cool, right? And it boils down to simple motivations like that. And whether it's, you got the last one, there's, dopamine rush in that of being able to get it. We do have the fear of missing out is real because it's rooted in loss aversion and this social proof aspect. And so understanding all those motivations of the human behavior is really important when you're considering getting someone to take an action and where your brand is going to sit. So, all that to be said, you can go either way, right? Any brand could decide and say, we want to be value or we want to be quality, right? We want to be A or B, and we want to deal with this moment of emotion, and we want to really lean into social proof or scarcity or whatever else. Like, whatever you want to do, you can, but you shouldn't try to do all of it, and you definitely shouldn't do that all at once. And what most brands get wrong is that they end up living in that gray area where, and what I see most of the time is people say that they are quality, that they want to be quality. It feels better to you as the brand, especially for small business owners, that you say that's what you want to be and you want to own into that. And then in the moment where everyone around you is doing a holiday sale or a year-end sale, or people are starting to discount, or they're doing these, your competition came in just below you, you start to feel that anxiety of what everyone else is doing. Here's our herding and social proof coming in again. And it feels like, well, if that's what they're doing, we have to do that too. And you give into that feeling. And even though you say your quality and maybe your message is talking about being a quality brand, but then you're selling things at this low value, like low dollar amount, and you're talking about how um, cheap and easy it is in the selling process, and something is wrong, and it makes it harder for people to buy from you. Whereas if you just own it like Supreme and say, like, this is how much it costs, this is what it is, like, and they don't make it easy for people to buy from them, right? They're not going out and doing a bunch of, begging people to buy. They make it difficult. And I give an example of Hermes, and the Birkin bag in the book as well. And similarly with this, it's a very expensive bag. It's very exclusive, and you can't just go into a store and buy it. You have to buy enough other things from Hermes to be nominated, essentially, from a staff member to be eligible to buy this bag that costs thousands of dollars. You don't get to choose your color, you don't get to choose your size, but people love and want this thing. And so knowing that exclusivity, we're funny. Humans are funny, I guess, in that way. But just own whatever you want to do, and know you don't have to do anything else, even if everyone else is doing something. That's actually a good opportunity to be on the other side and embrace, where you want to live as a brand.
Right. This temptation to just follow the norm and not standing for what motivation what gratification you were going to fulfill for the consumer can be very confusing for the consumer in terms of who you are and what you stand for, and hence what the relationship consumer is going to have with you. So could you talk about some mistake that a brand made big time in getting this wrong and realized it the right way? Or a, a very, or an example where you feel that the pricing was used so beautifully, so strategically, even if they changed it, even if they course corrected, they got it right.
Yeah, well, and I'm not sure if this is leaning into the example or point you're hoping to make. So, if not, feel free to, once I give this example, to come back and nudge me for something else. But one of the things that always comes to mind for me when I'm thinking about this kind of quality value and kind of living in the gray area problem is a client of mine is actually an accounting firm that I worked with years ago. And they were very much wanting to be in that quality space, especially some, the owners. And I did some research with them where we asked staff and we asked some key customers and clients of theirs, both ones that were, you know, top clients and ones, kind of around the mix. And marketing type questions, we end up asking weird things like, if your accounting firm, this one was a car, what make and model would they be and why? And it seems like a weird question to ask, but it can unlock some stuff in our brains. We actually think in metaphor, and being able to tie things into other brands or tangible things versus what we think we're talking about can be really helpful. In this case, asking the owners what type of car they would be. One of them had said that were a Porsche Cayenne, that they were this like sleek, amazing, like we're there, like zooming through and making things happen, luxury idea. And again and again and again, the customer responses were that they were a beat up old pickup truck and they were there when you need them and they're dependable. um, and those are two very different things that we're talking about here, right? And they were, having some struggles as they were actually trying to raise their prices and make a change here, and people weren't wanting to buy in. And you can see the quality and value problem really resonating here, where they were making a real misstep. And in this point, they had to embrace, you can either choose to say, we want to be the Porsche Cayenne. And so we need to stop anything we're doing that's giving these pickup truck vibes. And we want to really be on the quality side. Or they can say, hey, everyone sees us as this beat up old pickup truck, and we want to embrace that. And so we're just going to go full in and say, yeah, we're on this value side. We're dependable. We're that like sidekick sort of brand. We're here for you all the time. No matter what you need, you can call us. It's reasonable, affordable. We got you sort of space. But when you're working on both sides, it's just really weird and it doesn't make any sense. And so again, either side can work and make sense. They opted to kind of go in that quality side and make the shift there and being able to own and embrace that. And we can see where, owning what everybody's already saying about you is actually potentially the easier path to be able to take as you're doing some rebranding as well. So knowing that customer perception is really key in that as well.
Yeah. Explained. And Melina, I was reminded of a case where a French car brand is, the consumer work is going on. Why is the sales not picking up? And through, the consumer, when they are comparing many cars, they are looking at the pricing of this particular car and saying that I like it because it's huge, it's spacious, and it's slightly lesser than the next car in my consideration set.
Mm.
But it's also very beautiful and stylish. But that is not, at the forefront of their mind, because the discounts have happened because the sales were not picking up. There's a lot of inventory, continuously. And when the campaign is to be made, everybody is thinking, how do we make it more desirable? How do we make it more desirable? But on the other hand, so I was just thinking that it doesn't all fit into what you want to be for the consumer. Like if you want them to feel like, okay, I'm exotic, I've bought a French car, I have unique taste, then they should be willing. They are willing to pay for that price if you just create a consensus around the desirability. Perhaps just focus there.
Absolutely. And in this case, thinking that so people could care about all sorts of aspects of the thing. And if you try to talk about all of it, and it's just going to be so vague and not helpful, we can't like really lean in on anything. And this is where being able to tell a really powerful story, whether it's about that particular buyer and helping them to see how they're the hero of this journey of getting that car, and how that's going to help them in whatever their experience is, or to tell other customer stories or a founder story or like something that people can really grab onto and have that emotional connection with. But really good stories, so Disney obviously being amazing at telling stories, and they have one of their, they have their Mickey's commandments that they have. And I don't remember all of them off the top of my head, but I know one of them being that you only tell one story at a time, right? So it can be really easy to try to say way too many things and have all the options and all the colors and all the choices and all the things, and you get to do this and that and blah, blah, blah. We get overwhelmed. And when we're overwhelmed, we are going to lean into the status quo. We humans have a status quo bias. We're going to just stick with the default of the thing we're doing now, even if it's objectively worse, even if we know we should do the other thing, even if we want to do the other thing. Our brains can be lazy and just not want to do that additional work to buy. And so it's okay to have customizable opportunities and things, but you have to think about how you structure those choices and how you present options to people in a way that makes it cognitively easy for them to make the decision and to buy from you. And again, if you try to talk about how it's bigger and it's more luxurious and it's this and it's that and I'm not going to really lean into any of them. But when you pick one thing and you tell that story really well, it might not resonate with everyone, but it will resonate with enough people that are your top buyer that it's going to make a difference. An example, another one that's actually not in the book, but is of the Patek Philippe watch, and where they have, their brand messaging being essentially that you never really own a Patek Philippe. You're just looking after it for the next generation, like, or for future generations, right? And they're very expensive watches, right? That's what they are. There are lots of expensive watches, but when you think about how that leans into a legacy building that this a certain person that would be investing in watches would want, it's not about overcoming the price. It's talking about what a great investment it is because it's the thing I'm going to give to my children and their children and their children, and they'll remember that this was my great great grandmother, grandfather's watch that's been in the family for all of this time. And you can imagine that. And like, I want to do that. And when I think about this long lasting value, this is such a great investment in our family legacy. They have completely shifted the conversation about this watch compared to the other watch. It's just not about that. And knowing that that's what someone is actually trying to get from buying a watch like that is so smart, in the way that they make that message. It takes a lot of work to get to a really simple tagline like that. But when you invest and you tell, there's so much in that storyline that can help somebody to feel compelled and ready to buy. And that's where, so the, competitive, like their competition, someone might say, I don't know, like, there was just something about I didn't like the color of your watch, or it wasn't about the like that they whatever they'll tell you of why they didn't buy is not necessarily the reason. It was about this legacy, whether they want to admit or say it or not.
Yeah, brilliant, isn't it? So, Melina, would you say that this is actually they've used anchoring to, you know, put themselves in the space of legacy and not watches?
Hmm. Um, I
There's an
don't
example that's coming to my mind when,
yeah, yeah.
and then I want you to know what you think about it. So, Dove, Dove when came to India, It figured that, so initially it was okay because it was targeting, a slightly upper middle class. But then when it wanted to grow the market and wanted to penetrate more, it realized that it was perceived as a very expensive soap as compared to the other soaps in the market. And that's when they started talking about, it's not a soap, it's cream. It's like the 1/4 moisturizing milk, it's cream, you know.
Mm.
And suddenly the price perception is that you're not comparing it with other cheaper soaps, because hello, the cream is more expensive and it's going to do those things for my skin, and anyways I need it. And suddenly the reference set shifts. So I
Mhm.
just wanted to understand, is that kind of a thing happening when they say it's not this, and they kind of just put themselves away from the competition?
Yeah, and it is similar, and, whether or not it's and there's an aspect of anchoring in the way that we frame and think about what somebody like, it's, like breaking out of potentially like how people see you and not being anchored to that. Like I can see where that argument kind of comes in. And so in that way, like, yeah, right. I mean, sure, right. I'm cool, good with that as the defining piece for it. And I love Dove as an example, and whether it's from the 3/4 moisturizer type cream, and they do a really good job with the visuals. And I think even leaning into where Dove has had their Real Beauty campaign, right? Which has been really powerful, and helping to show that, real beauty is not just the photoshopped, this skin tone, this size, this everything, this perfect skin and whatever else. Um, and knowing that it's for everybody, for everyone, what that happens to be. And like, but the interesting thing when you consider it, really, that's about what that brand stands for. It's not about the soap or shampoo or whatever it is that they're selling. And that emotional connection of saying, we agree and want to support this message, and so I will buy Dove because of that, is a fascinating way to disconnect from the commoditized industry that is soap, right? And being clean, right? I guess in that way. And so to know that you can change the story, you can create your own sort of category if you want, if you think about the conversation in a different way and understand what it is that this person is trying to do and achieve. And again, coming back to those deeper motivations, and understanding someone's identity. Like the Run Like a Girl campaign, always, I believe, did that. And in that way, where you show, with little kids, under the age of 5, I think, show me how you run like a girl, and they are just, running like humans run, right? And then there's a certain point around 7, 8 years old, and then it becomes this like, bleh, like sort of wimpy, lame experience that the boys and the girls start to have. And you look at it and go, and adults and everything, you say run like a girl, they have this um just thing that you look at and go, ugh, right? I hate that. And to know that it happens so early, and that it doesn't have to be, because then you show these athletes, amazing athletes that are women, right? And so running like a girl shouldn't be this. And just being able to show this shift is something that is to stand for, and saying we want to do this, right? This corporate social responsibility messaging coming through and saying, this is a stigma that we don't agree with, we don't like, and so we're putting, our weight behind changing this, because women are amazing and powerful, and we want to help support that. Um, and we happen to, you sell, these types of products, right? It wouldn't have mattered if it was in this way, if it was Dove, if it's Always, if it's something else. It's the point. It could have been Nike. Nike did a similar ad years later. And so, but standing for something and knowing that people like that, again, is really important for a brand. And to know, but you could choose anything, but picking something and being consistent with it and knowing why it resonates for you and what it means to the brand and who you're trying to be and who your customers are and what they care about and how that's going to emulate in that brand's personality and the products and services that you sell is the most important decision, whatever it is that you pick, but you want to own whatever that is so you know what to say no to so that your messaging can be very clear and consistent. And if that stands with being quality or value, it even comes down to the number you use in your pricing and whether or not you run sales and have coupons or not. But you need to make that decision very concretely early on so that you can then just be consistent so that a potential buyer knows this brand is this type of thing and then you're showing up as that again and again and again. One of my very favorite quotes comes from Peter Steidl, in saying that a brand is a memory, right? And really, all our relationships are just memories that stack up. And if the brand is showing up and it's inconsistent in your social media compared to how you show up when I call you versus your website versus if I come into a location, like that, those memories don't stack up in the right way. And it can just make it, again, where there's this cognitive difficulty. It's hard to buy for me because I don't know where to put you in my mind. Whereas if it lines up and I get this like a consistent feeling and a vibe and you are this all across the board, it that cognitive fluency just makes it easier for people to buy wherever you choose to be.
Yeah. So, Melina, in terms of when they are taking a higher message, when brands are taking a higher message, trying to I mean, for identification and creating brand love. In behavioral science terms, what are they doing? Is it like the self-actualization space? What is really happening? Or if they are tapping into the that kind of an aspiration for the consumer?
On Maslow's hierarchy, there's, questions of, full validity on exactly what's in that. But if we use it as a starting point of something people are familiar with, right? And you think about, hey, where is this person on the hierarchy in the context of what it is that we're selling them and what they're trying to achieve with this thing, right? So even if I, as a person, am higher up on the pyramid, I still also need to make, decisions about safety and about other aspects of needs that are further down on the pyramid. And I may also buy things that are higher up on the pyramid. I'm not necessarily buying my coffee for self-actualization. That might be it might be a social connection when you think about something like Starbucks, and creating that third place. If we go way back, for an origination and this, social interaction and where we stand with others in that lifestyle hierarchy, right? And something like, there are these, I've seen like fire blankets where there have been all the fires in Los Angeles that everybody's, very scared, obviously. And that blanket or fire extinguishers, like something you want to go buy to feel like you could do something knowing wouldn't have won't help you if there's a huge wildfire, but it feels like it's something you can go do to have some aspect of safety, caring for those around you, and you want to go buy that product. It's looking at something that's further down, in that hierarchy. So if you could even just use that as a framework, if it feels connected for you to be able to say, we're here, and in this point, they're trying to achieve this. And how would our message resonate if we're talking about it in terms of social connection versus like
Being safe.
saying safe versus actualization? And you could do your messaging coffee, Starbucks joint, like you could have it be, if we were going to fit in every single one of these and try to come up with what our message would be, what would that look and sound like? And now that we've done that, which one do we want to go with? Right. And I mean, that could be a great strategy as a way to think about and see what's going to resonate with people. And you can see, which message really works. But sometimes It's just about making it easier for people to make a decision. So you think about something and removing jargon, what you can be doing to frame your message in a more compelling and easy way for people. There's the example of, cameras selling on megapixels. And does anybody really know what a megapixel is? Very few in the grander scheme of things. And do I know whether I need 8 or 10 or 12 or 100 or 1,000? Like, I don't know what that even means. But if you were to say,
The
this
benefit.
camera, yeah, it can, if you, because of this number of megapixels, you could print to 8 by 10, or this is good for digital only, or this would look good as a poster, or you could even blow this up to the size of a billboard and it would work, right? I can then make a decision and say, like billboard, probably not, but maybe I will get talented enough that I'd want it to be a poster. I'll get this one, right? That became a much easier decision based on the way it was framed. And it doesn't have to be, maybe there's a little bit of like, and I'll be an amazing photographer selling posters someday. And there's some sort of self actualization in there, but just framing it easier
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
changes
yeah.
the conversation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So with every category, what role it plays, I mean, that has to be kept in mind. And sometimes, I guess, within the category also, you can, I mean, if you do consumer work, you can find a need gap and figure out. My audience is ready to get into the brain-friendly pricing strategy. So how should they go about it?
Yeah, I mean, really, I'd say, leaning into all of what we've been talking about here is to be thoughtful about what your customer is trying to do and to know where you want them to go. There is a chapter in the book that has to do with actual numbers. And in that way, um, you know, owning kind of where you want to land there. I'd say do find some of your break even stuff, right? Understand your costs and different points to know what the minimum is of what you can or should charge for something. I encourage people to sit back and to think about, yeah, this is the least we could charge. But if we don't want to anchor on that and say, what's the real problem we're trying to solve and what is that worth to someone, that is often going to be higher than where you're at now. And to know that whatever you're wanting to sell, like the thing that is your best offer, that you're putting like, all your eggs in that basket of the thing that you think most people should get, even if you have hundreds or thousands of products in these decision points, there's a thing you're trying to nudge people toward, or there should be, right? And in this case, it's if you've got a rotating banner on the website, it's like, what's the main thing it's driving people to go do something? You want to make that really clear. And whatever that thing is, your job is to make it look as good as possible. In the book, talk about anchoring and relativity in this case. And so find whatever that best thing is, focus on it, and create a wingman for it, another product or service that's job is to make that best offer look good. And then you can structure the pricing around optimizing that best offer item. So like you wouldn't want this thing to be at 5,000 and then the wingman is at, 5,100 or something, but if it's 499 or 447.50 and this thing is over 5,000, then the best offer feels better because we have a left digit bias. It falls underneath that. So understanding the decision and how to structure the choices and the number and the pricing to optimize what it is that you are looking to sell, and know that you have the flexibility to move things around and help the story line up with it. It all falls into place, hopefully, as you think about putting that all together.
Yeah. So choice architecture, Melina just mentioned, and relativity, which is very important because apparently our brain cannot react to anything in vacuum. It's always in comparison, but we make
Mm.
sense of things, and similar things when placed next to each other, we choose something better. So that's beautiful. And I would suggest everyone please pick that book because Melina has very painstakingly, you know, she'll take you through every step, chapter by chapter. She'll work with you. She's given frameworks and asked very relevant questions and, exercises to do. Melina, when you say pricing is a process, when you say it's a process and you can reflect on it and change it, what do you really mean?
Yeah, I think pricing shouldn't be something that you like go through and you choose the price and it's now it's in stone and it exists forever and it's this hugely painstaking thing to go change it. Especially in a digital world, it's a lot easier to change prices than it once was when you're having to go print signage and do all sorts of things. You may still have printed signage, but even that can be changed. And so to know that people aren't paying as much attention to you as you think they are. And so where you say, oh, no, but this price we showed 3 years ago that it was this, and people will remember. Most people won't. And so it's okay to have some adjustment. And if you kind of lean into this idea of little tweaks here and there that you're running tests and things, then people won't get fixated on a certain price to where it's always this and it has to be this. And then they're going to, fight you when you go to do a price change. So to know that you can just try something and see what happens. If you change the price on one item, it doesn't mean that everything has to change. You don't have to use the same rules with how you set this price versus this other one. It doesn't always have to be that it's the exact percentage above your cost or whatever it is, right? So you can play around with it and have a reason, where someone's going to ask, why something was priced a certain way. You want to know why you're doing it, but you can test and know that it's just not something that you're stuck with for all time. So be open to trying some things and see what works, and give it the breathing room to help it to work and how you talk about it. And I bet you'll be surprised at how easy it can be to raise a price if that's what you want to do, or to sell more at a lowered price if you want to. Right, that you can do whatever you want and it'll come easy if you let
Lot of pressure off, Melina.
it. Good.
Yeah, it's just one of those decisions. And as long as there's clarity, you can iterate. And, anyways, we are in agile marketing times. So, my favorite, nudgeability quadrant. I think this is your proprietary framework. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
When is it that a nudge can be applied? Very simply, if you had to explain that this is how you think about applying nudges, the central, because that's the beauty of your framework, Melina. It just makes it very, very understandable, and you feel like, I can work with it.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear it. So, really, this is looking at, so there, as we already know in the Truth About Pricing, I give lots of different behavioral concepts and aspects, and we're building as we get to the different steps and questions to be asking and answering. Like you said, it's like a guide, hopefully walking you through the process. So glad to hear it felt like that for you as well. In getting to this nudgeability quadrant, as you think about your experience that people have with you and all these little micro moments of, not just to say, hey, we were looking to sell something and we sent an email and people bought or they didn't, right? But it's like, what was the subject line? Did it land in their inbox? Did they open it? Did they read it? Did they do this? Did they do that? Did they click? Did they go here? They went there. And then like all these little tiny moments. And if you think about those pieces of an experience, and it goes beyond just a single email, of course, right? But if we think about all these different things that happen, some moments are more nudgeable than others and are good places to start. And some are not to say that you should never think about them, but you want to get some of these other things out of the way first that are more likely to nudge and optimize an experience. So if we think about a call center, and people are calling in and they're complaining about something, is actually potentially a nudgeable moment. They're on the phone, they were upset. You can surprise and delight them with something that's going to turn them into being loyal. That might be a nudgeable opportunity early on. Once they've canceled, it's a lot harder to nudge and bring someone back. Right. And so let's figure out something that can happen earlier on, because they're in more of a fixed state. Once they've already left, they've gone to another, a competitor or something. It's a lot harder, and a lot more effort that would go into that experience. So really, in this case, the quadrant is just looking at, how nudgeable is the moment. So you have all your experience points. You can say it's either nudgeable or fixed, important or unimportant, and you can just start to put it onto the list. And then you can find this, what I have is like the upper right of being important and nudgeable. If you find 3 to 5 micro moments that are in that spot to start with and say, let's optimize these and work on building our nudges here, that's just a good spot to start.
Mhm. So, significance of the moments and how fixed or open to change they are.
Yeah.
And so, across the consumer journey, you figure out where you can optimize, make it better, considering all that Melina has already shared in terms of what's your story, how do you stay consistent across the medium, and what is the need you're going to fulfill, and of course your business aspects, everything. And now you select those moments and you say, okay, here I can make a change. Right? You pick those 3, 4 moments and then you try it out. Then you can figure it out. Take feedback,
Yep.
analyze data, get insights, and then keep going.
Yep. Test,
Awesome.
test. I've been trying to do it right. I've been living a lonely life. I've been sleeping here instead, sleeping in my bed, sleeping in my bed. There you go.
Wow. Super. Like an alternate profession could have been.
Musical theater and singing. Yeah.
Yay. Okay. We got a sense of that. Okay. What would you do on Mars for fun?
Not die.
Yeah.
I would be too scared
Yes,
to
we
do
want that
anything, I
too,
think.
please.
Read books, stay inside.
Yeah, okay. As per your husband, Aaron, your most often used phrase.
I guess like, what do you think? Or do you agree with me on that? Yeah.
Say it like that, he'd have to. That was the
Right?
intention.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me prime you.
Yep, for sure.
One thing no one knows about you.
I feel like I'm a pretty open book on things. Oh, uh, some people probably know, but I am working to be able to do my first pull up. I want to be able to do a pull up. That's my
Yay, we're
goal
rooting
of the
for
moment.
you. Okay. Okay. We're rooting for you. A book you'd like to gift to all your friends. It cannot be your own book.
A More Beautiful Question by Warren Berger.
What would you tell your 18-year-old self?
Go find Erin Palmer immediately.
Oh, lucky you. What's something new happening in your life right now?
Well, we started doing CrossFit to be able to work for said,
Yay, lovely. Together, another partnership.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, yeah.
Super. Okay. Okay. If you were to devote the rest of your life to philanthropy, what cause would you choose?
Either music in schools, which I think is very important, or something to do with advocacy for celiac awareness. As celiac disease can't have gluten, and so there's important stuff there. But we'll go with music in schools.
Okay. What's a lesson that took you a long time to learn?
We'll say not making obvious facial expressions all the time. I have a very expressive face, and so sometimes you kind of go, So well, I'm working on it still.
No, don't keep it. You need. It's very like the transparency is. It just builds that kind of connection and trust so fast. Yeah?
Yes,
Do
it
this a
is
lot.
good in many ways, and there are some where you're going,
Okay, I mean, that's
that's
okay. We'll
yeah,
live with it. Okay. You just focus on the pull up. Okay.
yeah.
What is one missed opportunity you wish you could have a second chance at?
Oh my gosh, I used to do acting as a kid, and there was an audition I went on where it was this someone who was like a singer, and I got really shy in the moment, and I didn't like sing to the best of my ability, and so there's that wondering of like what could have happened if I would have like really owned it in that moment. I think my life turned out really good, so I don't know that I actually would change it, but that would be a moment.
What's your jagged edge?
I've been told in this taking very academic and somewhat boring literature and things, and being able to help it feel very applicable and for people to feel, inspired and empowered to go do something with stuff that may feel obscure otherwise. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I will request you to, if you want to talk about your book at this point, how people can reach you, where they can get the book, anything you'd like to share.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I'd say everything, all my books, the podcast for consulting or speaking or anything else, you just go to thebrainybusiness.com and everything is there to find information. And we do have it segment by topic, including pricing. All the green content has to do with pricing strategy and sales. And then you can also find me on all the socials as the Brainy Biz, BIZ, and as Melina Palmer on LinkedIn to be able to connect and follow for tips and see what we end up doing with our updated, social content. Join the newsletter. Things like that. Well, yeah, thanks so much for having me on. Definitely great conversation, great host, and so everybody should like and share and check it out and yeah, listen and we'll see you on the next one.
Yay! Cool. Melina, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for finding time and keep inspiring us.
Oh, thank you. Will do.